Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another YouTube video, and welcome to part 6 of my ultimate park build in Jurassic World Evolution 3. Now, in today's video, it is time to introduce our third dinosaur exhibit into the park, which is going to be a flying reptile build, and it will be the Kyrajar. We are building one of my favorite flying reptiles in the game, and with the addition of the new invisible aviaries, which I added in the Rebirth DLC, I just had to try and make a habitat for this dinosaur. So, yeah, basically, there's a glitch you can do where you just sink the aviary walls into the ground a little bit, um, or rather raise the terrain around them. So I did that, and then you see there's still a little bit left, so but you can just place rocks around those walls, and um, then you can't see them anymore. So that is a very, very nice addition to a game, and something I will likely be using more in the future. Um, because the aviaries don't particularly look too nice in my opinion. So there we go. Anyway, as this entire park has been very mountainous, we've already had quite a few mountains. The arrival point is on a mountain. There's just exhibits surrounded by mountains. I wanted to place this exhibit and this area on top of a mountain. Um, I just thought it would look quite nice. You walking along and you look up, and just on top of this mountain, you've got these flying reptiles just flying around up there, perching in the trees, looking down over on the entire park. And yeah, I just thought it would look really cool. This wasn't what I was planning on doing in today's episode, but the Rebirth DLC came out, and I just wanted to try out these new aviaries. So I decided to push the aviary build forward a bit. Um, I was planning on doing just an ordinary aviary habitat build up here in the future, but the invisible ones came out, so pushed that forward. And what I was planning on doing in this episode will be coming out in 2 episodes' time. Um, so yeah, I'm very excited about build, and it ends up being, I think, my personal favorite habitat that I've built in this game by that point. Um, you can kind of see the area it's going to go just below this one. So this one is going to be, this habitat is going to be kind of overlooking the next one I build. It is going to be back for a dinosaur, and it is going to be a carnivore, or should I say piscivore. It is going to be a fish-eating dinosaur who is going in that area. You'll see at the bottom of that kind of canyon I've made. I do flesh it out more in the next episode, but for now, let's just stick with what I'm doing here. You'll see what I mean by just placing rocks down, and just to cover up um the aviary walls. Usually, the flying reptiles aren't my favorite animals to build for the fact that the aviaries, I just don't like the design on them. They're just massive, take up so much room, don't particularly look nice. So I'm very glad they added in the invisible aviaries. It just looks so much nicer and so much more natural. Um, I know it makes it look like the dinosaurs can just fly away, but I think by now we've determined that realism isn't what I'm going for in this part. So yeah, I don't care about that. I mean, you'll see in zoos all the time where they um find ways of stopping the like birds and that leaving without having like a netting over the top. Sometimes they do, or they like flip their wings, I think it is, which stops them flying. I'm sure we can do something like that. Um, Stop these the cobra jars from flying out of here. And yeah, this habitat was really fun to build. Just working with rocks so much. You know I love rocks and foliage in this game, so kind of how much this habitat lent on rocks and foliage, it was just very fun to build. And yeah, this is now our third dinosaur, or technically not a dinosaur, but the third animal in this park. The park is starting to get pretty big now, and it will only keep on expanding until this series is done. I don't necessarily have an end point or where I necessarily want to get to with this. I just think I'll know when I reach a point where it's kind of in a good place to stop. Um, yeah, we'll be able to tell. Anyway, these elephant grass pieces, is it? I think, or these reeds, they are really nice. Just long grass mixed into the rocks, spread a bit of color around there. Just they take up a lot of room. Um, and looking at the bare rock faces, it's not the most enjoyable thing to look at. So plants like this one definitely help to break up that surface a bit more and give it a bit more life in there. You'll see with these kind of habitat builds I do where like most of the episode is just going to be me placing foliage and rocks in, um, trees, all that kind of stuff. It's just what I love doing in this game, just making really nice natural looking habitats for the animals to go in. Um, yeah, kind of got like mix between different kinds of foliage as well. Like I'll keep the kind of trees and bushes I'm doing across the entire park similar. But in the habitats itself, I think you can't just have one kind of bush everywhere or one kind of tree everywhere. You kind of got to mix it up a bit, and you got to like rotate them, change the scale on them, just to add in a bit of variety with the foliage. Otherwise, it just all looks very, very much the same across the entire build, which is not something I want in my park. I kind of want to have that. I want the habitats to look the best thing in the park. The guest areas can look alright, but what I really care about making are these habitats for the animals, and yeah, I'll put in these perch points for the coyotes to actually land on, just because I wanted to have somewhere for them to perch on and just look out over the entire park. Um, yeah, that is. I think that is pretty much it for this habitat. it didn't take me too long to make. L the most difficult thing about this habitat build was just all the rocks and making the mountain for this thing to sit on. Um, the mountain does get reworked a bit in the next 2 episodes. You'll see what I mean by that when we get to it. But yeah, the mountain that this habitat is on does change a lot in the coming episodes, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Anyway, here we go. The Kaiua jars are being released into their habitat now. You see, I went for these green bodies on the males with that massive pink head crest, and then kind of a darker grey blue on females. And yeah, they just look so cool in there. I originally released four, two males, two females, and then I later released even more of them because it's quite a big habitat and they are only small animals, so they did not take up the space well. Next up, I wanted to have in a viewing gallery. I didn't want to have it feel too detached from the theme of the buildings across the rest of the park. Um, However, I wanted it to be kind of more, um, feel more like a lodge. If you get what I mean, like it's not as I don't really know the word for it, but I use these bamboo pieces on the bottom and then these wooden pieces on the top in kind of a lighter shade than what I have been using previously in the park. Um, Yeah, you'll see what I mean when this building comes out, how it differs from the guest areas we put in the starting area of this park. But I'm really happy with how it turned out. I think this area might just be. I know it's not my favourite habitat I've built as of yet. You'll see that coming out in the next few episodes. But across this episode and next episode, you'll see this area be completed, and I'm really happy with how this whole mountain area turned out. Um, yeah, it just comes together really nicely, and it feels more natural. Like I said, I like dealing with the habitat's natural builds, so that's probably partly why I enjoyed this one so much. Um, yeah. I mean, overall, these buildings, they take quite a while to make now. And putting little details everywhere, and yeah, it does. These builds do take quite a while to make. Um, you get used to it after a little while of doing them. It becomes easier as you get more used to it, but they still, there's only so much you can do to speed up the process by the other than that, you just kind of have to have the time spend quite a while on these builds. Yeah, in the last episode, I made a viewing gallery for the Ornithomimus habitat that the guest couldn't like. It counted as a guest being able to see him, but if you looked out the viewing gallery, you would just be greeted by a brick wall. Um, like I said, then I vary between doing habitats like that where you can't actually use the viewing galleries, and ones like you'll see me doing here and with the Allosaurus habitat I did in the third episode. Um, I think it was third anyway. Yeah, it's third. Where you can actually see out of them because I think that is just also really nice to do. However, they don't always look great. You know, the massive glass walls, like not my favorite design of a building in the game. But anyway, I you kind of got to find a way to make it look nice sometimes because the views you get out of them are really nice in the end. So I'm happy I did it for this one. And this building is going to be kind of like the centerpiece of this area at the top. So I wanted to make it look like guests could come here, sit down, have something to eat, have something to drink. So I made these balcony areas on the roofs where there would be sunbeds for the guests to use. Um, and then the little area in front of the building, I fenced that off and put some tables and chairs in there where guests would sit down. Um, yeah, that was pretty much it for this building. Just adding in some windows, some doors, like the banners, lighting, all the little details I add into my builds that just help it come to life quite a bit. And then on top of what I'd done already, with the little banners, the yellow ones that I've been using across the park, hanging them up on the building, I also wanted to have a big sign on the top of this building. Um, and I decided to name this area Kayua Jar Canopy. Is that alliteration there? Sounds quite nice, I thought. And having the name of the dinosaur. I like having signs up on the viewing galleries or somewhere by the habitat to just kind of let guests know what the name of the dinosaur there is. Kind of, just something to draw their attention in as they're walking over to the building. Just something like that. So I made these lists here, changed the colour of them, and then whacked them up the top of the building. Anyway, that is pretty much the end of today's video. Um, so I hope you all enjoyed. There is the finished viewing gallery product and the habitat sat behind it. So I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Good. Bye.